Libra love, someone with a name that starts with S, is quietly disrupting your thoughts and your finances, and if you're here watching this video between October 1st and 3rd, this is not a coincidence. This is your divine alert. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may explain everything you've been feeling but haven't been able to name. Hello, beautiful Libra soul. Welcome home to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where we don't just deliver horoscopes, reveal divine messages, soul contracts, and cosmic awakenings tailored for your unique journey. And today, the universe isn't whispering. It's speaking clearly, urgently, through a message that found you exactly when you were ready to receive it. Have you noticed something shifting in your inner world lately? Have your thoughts felt heavier, more scattered? Has your confidence been quietly cracking under pressure you can't quite explain? Do your money decisions feel foggy, or your emotions unusually tangled? That's not just stress or coincidence. It's interference. Right now, there is an energetic influence surrounding you, a wave of spiritual static clouding your clarity. And at the center of that interference is someone whose name begins with S. This person may not appear harmful on the surface. In fact, they may come wrapped in concern, kindness, or even affection. But if you find yourself mentally drained, emotionally confused, or financially impulsive after interacting with them, then your intuition is already picking up on the truth. Astrologically, we are entering a sensitive window. Between October 1st and 3rd, the moon moves through Gemini and creates tension with Mercury in Sagittarius, an alignment that amplifies misunderstandings, miscommunications, and mind games. And for you, Libra, whose ruler Venus has just exited a retrograde shadow phase, this is a delicate time of emotional recalibration. That strange regret you're feeling? That internal tug-of-war between past and present? It's real. And it's spiritual. But let me be very clear. This video is not about fear. It's about taking back your authority. You were not created to shrink in the shadows of someone else's unresolved energy. You are the keeper of your own light, and no one has the right to dim it, not even subtly, not even unintentionally. As it is written, God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. That means if your spirit feels disturbed, it's time to pause and pay attention. So take a breath with me. And understand this: if your heart is uneasy after a conversation, if your wallet feels lighter but your soul feels heavier, if you keep second-guessing your own progress, then you don't need more proof. Your awareness is the proof. This reading will dive deep. We'll look at the tarot signs guiding you now: the Moon, Justice, and the Ace of Pentacles. We'll talk about why this moment may be the turning point where you stop carrying what was never yours to bear. And we'll explore how this S energy may have served its purpose and why your breakthrough requires your release. But before we begin, let me take a moment to thank you, sincerely. Every time you like, comment, or subscribe, you help keep this sacred space alive. Your support is what allows Zodiac Whisper Tarot to bring these healing messages forward, not just for you, but for thousands of souls around the world walking through the same fire. I see you. I appreciate you. And I'm honored to walk with you. Now tell me, Libra, what pulled you here today? What intuitive nudge, what thought, what person, what feeling? Take a second and comment below to confirm your connection to this message. If a name came to mind, especially one that starts with S, write it down. If a sacred number or angel code is rising in your heart, share it. Let the universe know, I'm listening. I'm ready. I claim my clarity. Stay with me until the end, because what's about to be revealed may not only explain your recent confusion, it may shift the direction of your entire month. Let's begin. There are moments when what you feel doesn't quite match what you see, and this might be one of them, Libra. You're trying to stay grounded, to keep showing up for your life with grace and logic, but something invisible seems to be pulling at the edge of your awareness. You're making decisions that don't feel like yours. You're pausing in the middle of sentences, forgetting what you were certain about just a moment ago. And worst of all, you may have started questioning your own intuition, the very compass that has always guided you through seasons of uncertainty. But let's take a deeper look at what's really happening here. There is a kind of energetic wave you're riding right now, a soft but powerful undercurrent that doesn't announce itself with drama, but with doubt. It's the kind of influence that sneaks in through familiar voices, well-meaning conversations, or subtle changes in your environment. This energy doesn't always come with malicious intent. Sometimes it arrives cloaked in the image of someone who claims to love you, or who once did. A person who shares history with you. Someone whose name, perhaps, begins with the letter S. They may not even realize the hold they still have on your thoughts. And yet, every time you interact with them, even indirectly, you notice a shift. A fog. A small internal collapse. It's as if your mind doesn't belong entirely to you in those moments. These disruptions can be so subtle that you almost write them off. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I'm overthinking. But your body knows. Your nervous system responds before your mind can rationalize. That flutter of anxiety? That split second of confusion? That's not just stress, it's your energy field absorbing interference. You see, energy, just like thought or prayer, doesn't need permission to reach us. A whispered wish, even one sent without love, can cling to your spirit like smoke in the air. This is why spiritual hygiene is so vital. Just as we cleanse our physical bodies daily, our energetic boundaries require tending too. But before you rush to remove anyone from your life or cast judgments, take a step inward. Ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that's no longer mine to carry? Sometimes we mistake emotional weight for love. We think staying tethered to someone's presence because of loyalty, guilt, or familiarity is strength. But often, it's the very thing dimming our light. And if someone is projecting onto you, even silently, it is not your job to absorb or fix it. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring for yourself first. That is sacred. We're not always called to fight against energies that feel misaligned. Sometimes we're simply called to recognize them. And in that recognition, to gently create space to think clearly, to feel authentically, to reclaim the silence where your voice speaks the loudest. There's no need for conflict. No need for evidence. When your peace is disrupted, that is enough. And for those of you walking through life trying to balance everything, responsibilities, relationships, expectations, I want to remind you, God does not lead through confusion. He whispers clarity. He guides through peace. And peace is not something you chase. It's something you allow once you remove what blocks it. So today, Libra, if you felt something that doesn't quite make sense, don't rush to explain it away. Sit with it. Listen to it. Maybe that sense of spiritual static isn't yours. Maybe that voice in your head wasn't born in your own heart. And maybe, just maybe, the clarity you've been praying for will arrive the moment you stop trying to silence your intuition, and instead, allow it to speak. Sometimes, clarity doesn't come in a lightning strike. It arrives slowly, like a gentle fog lifting at sunrise. And right now, Libra, you're standing in that in-between place where what you feel and what you see may not fully align. That isn't failure. That isn't weakness. That's simply what happens when celestial energies are pulling at different parts of your being all at once. Between October 1st and 3rd, the moon governing your emotional body moves into sharp tension with Mercury, the planet of thought, words, and mental processing. When these two energies square off, your intuition and logic may start speaking different languages. One part of you says, "This doesn't feel right," while another insists, "But it makes sense on paper." And in that internal conflict, you start second-guessing everything. You hesitate to make a choice, replay past decisions, even find yourself missing people or paths that you know weren't good for you. That's not regression, it's the result of energetic pressure. Add to this that your ruling planet, Venus, has just emerged from retrograde shadow. This is what astrologers call post-shadow fog. It's like stepping out of a long emotional tunnel and blinking in the sunlight, unsure of where you've landed. During this time, old feelings can resurface, especially ones tied to unresolved relationships, unspoken emotions, or unfinished business. You might suddenly feel nostalgic for something that once hurt you. You may find yourself doubting the progress you've made. It's okay. This isn't a step backward. It's a final test of your alignment. In the tarot, the moon card appears to reflect the very energy of these skies. It speaks of illusion, not outright lies, but half-truths, emotional distortions, and subconscious shadows. You may be seeing things through a lens that doesn't belong to you. That's why discernment is your lifeline now. Justice, also in your reading, asks you not just to want truth but to live it, even if it's uncomfortable. Sometimes fairness doesn't feel like kindness. Sometimes choosing what's right for your soul means disappointing others. But real justice starts within. And then there's the Ace of Pentacles, the quiet gift waiting beneath the chaos. This card brings the energy of grounded beginnings, new financial opportunities, and a return to stability. But it comes with a caveat: you must have hands free to receive it. That means letting go of what's draining you. You cannot carry someone else's confusion and still catch the blessing meant for you. The offer is on the table, but only if you're willing to release what no longer serves. When we talk about faith, Libra, we're not always talking about religion. We're talking about trust in timing, in healing, in your ability to recognize what is no longer aligned. In seasons like this, you don't need to have all the answers. You just need to trust the questions. You just need to follow the quiet nudge in your spirit that says, "This isn't right," even when everything looks fine from the outside. That is spiritual wisdom in action. That is sacred discernment. So be gentle with yourself. You're not lost, you're being recalibrated. Your clarity hasn't left you, it's simply being refined. Take space from loud opinions. Anchor into silence. Listen for the whisper beneath the noise. And when the energy feels confusing, don't push through, pause. What looks like hesitation might just be your intuition protecting you from going back into a pattern you've outgrown. You're being prepared for something solid, something lasting. But like any good foundation, it begins with clearing the ground. And if that means clearing people, ideas, or even emotional habits that once brought you comfort, then trust that peace is always worth the letting go. Let your soul breathe again. Let yourself be light enough to rise. What often goes unnoticed in times of energetic confusion is how subtly it begins to affect our relationship with money. Not just how we earn it, but how we spend it, how we give it away, and most importantly, what we believe it represents. For many Libra souls, financial energy is directly connected to emotional clarity. When your heart is weighed down or misaligned, your spending habits begin to reflect the imbalance. You might shop to soothe, invest to escape, or give beyond your means in an effort to preserve a connection you fear losing. But if you pause for just a moment and look deeper, you'll begin to see the truth behind the transactions. Are you spending money to feel seen, to prove you're enough, to hold on to a relationship that's already expired? Are you clinging to a financial pattern simply because it's familiar, even if it no longer fits who you're becoming? These questions aren't meant to create shame theory, meant to invite freedom. Because money, like energy, must flow. And when it's tangled in guilt, fear, or subconscious obligation, it becomes stagnant. There's a softness in financial healing that people rarely talk about. It's not always about cutting back or working harder. Sometimes it's about pausing long enough to ask, why do I feel empty even after I've filled my cart? Or, why do I feel obligated to support others when I can't even support myself fully yet? These are sacred inquiries. They are doorways into self-respect. And they're not answered all at once, they unfold gradually, through daily awareness and gentle redirection. One practice that has helped many is the 7-day money belief reset. Each morning, sit in stillness and write, what do I believe about money today? Don't censor it. Just observe what flows through. By the end of the week, you'll begin to see patterns, beliefs you inherited, stories you absorbed from others, scripts that aren't even yours. This awareness is powerful. Because once you see the story, you can choose to rewrite it. Adding to this is the healing power of color frequency. Yellow, the color of the sun, the symbol of vitality, confidence, and creative joy, can be a gentle ally for you this week. Incorporate yellow foods, wear golden hues, or meditate with golden light visualizations. Let this solar frequency remind you that abundance is not just money in your hand, but warmth in your spirit and strength in your choices. And if you're carrying the weight of others, their financial burdens, emotional needs, or energetic entanglements, this is your gentle reminder. You are not the rescuer of every broken piece around you. Libra is the sign of balance, yes, but balance does not mean self-sacrifice. You were never meant to hold up the world while your own foundation crumbles. Sometimes love means saying no, sometimes generosity means letting others grow through their own storms. There's nothing selfish about reclaiming your space, your focus, your bank account, and your peace. In fact, it's one of the most loving things you can do, not just for yourself, but for those who depend on your light. Because when you stand rooted in clarity and self-respect, you give others permission to do the same. As you move through this phase, give yourself grace. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to set a new standard. You are allowed to stop proving your worth through what you give away. Because you, Libra, are already worthy, especially when you choose to finally invest in yourself. There's a common belief that you need evidence before setting boundaries. That unless someone crosses a visible line, you have no right to step away, protect your space, or reclaim your peace. But that belief, Libra, is a weight you were never meant to carry. You don't need loud betrayal or concrete proof to know when something doesn't feel right. Discomfort is its own form of clarity. If your body tightens after certain conversations, if your energy dips when someone enters the room, if your thoughts become noisy and confused after spending time with a particular person, trust that your nervous system, your intuition, your emotional resonance are all trying to speak on your behalf. Sometimes, we mistake compassion for compliance. We tell ourselves we should give them another chance, be more understanding, or keep the peace. But peace at the cost of your own emotional safety is not peace, it's performance. And Libra, the soul contract you made before coming into this life did not include being drained so others can feel full. Boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges that help you walk back to yourself. They are not rejection, they are redirection toward authenticity. If someone in your life, maybe even someone whose name starts with S, consistently leaves you feeling small, lost, guilty, or uncertain, you are not required to wait for a final straw. You are allowed to say, "This no longer aligns with my spirit." One of the most powerful decisions you can make is to honor what you feel in the quiet, not just what you can justify with words. It is okay to choose yourself before things get worse. In fact, choosing yourself early is often the highest form of wisdom. Begin gently. After your next interaction with that person, pause. Breathe slowly. Ask yourself, how do I feel right now, truly? If you sense contraction, dread, or confusion, write it down. Let your journal be your sacred mirror. You don't need a script, you just need space to witness your truth without editing it. And if that truth whispers, "I don't feel safe around them," believe it. Energetic hygiene is just as important as emotional awareness. If you feel energetically entangled, try smoke cleansing your space using natural incense, white sage, or even a simple open window. Let the old air out. Invite clarity in. Visualize yourself stepping out of that person's influence, not with anger, but with grace. Not with fear, but with certainty. This is how quiet strength begins, not in confrontation, but in the courage to stop explaining yourself and start choosing yourself. When people ask for miracles, they often expect the skies to open or a dramatic sign to appear. But miracles are more often found in the soft choices we make to protect our light. A woman once shared with me how, after years of being emotionally pulled in every direction by a family member, she sat still one night and asked God not for a sign but for peace. And the very next day, that person chose to leave her life without conflict. No blowout. No drama. Just divine release. Sometimes what you let go of quietly is what frees you the loudest. So if someone has come to mind as you've been listening, don't ignore that nudge. You're not being too sensitive. You're becoming more precise. Put your hand over your heart and ask, what am I protecting by staying in this dynamic, and is it worth what it's costing me? The answer won't always come quickly. But the moment you ask, the moment you become willing to hear it, the healing begins. Your boundaries are not punishments. They are prayers for alignment. And you don't need permission to pray for peace. Not everything that ends is a loss. Sometimes, it's simply the soul's way of making space for what's next. Libra, you've reached a moment in your journey where the energy is shifting not just around you, but within you. That sense of restlessness you've been feeling lately? That tug towards something unknown, yet undeniably right? It's not confusion, it's alignment unfolding. And that's the beauty of divine timing. It rarely announces itself with grand gestures, but rather through quiet clarity that rises once we stop clinging to what no longer resonates. Think of it like a gate is opening. Not one of noise or drama, but one that leads to a softer form of abundance. Financial restoration may not always look like sudden windfalls. Sometimes, it shows up as the return of your confidence. The moment you trust your decisions again, when you stop asking for outside validation and begin honoring your inner voice, the flow begins. You may notice synchronicity: a bill paid off unexpectedly, a new client calling in at the right moment, or the simple joy of feeling in control again. But to walk through this gate, you must release the weight that's been pulling on your spirit. And perhaps, that weight has had a name. Maybe it starts with S. Maybe it's a dynamic that once taught you something valuable. But here's the truth no one tells you: you don't need to keep learning a lesson you've already mastered. Growth is not loyalty to pain. It's recognizing when the teacher has become the tether, and when your graduation is long overdue. Forgiveness doesn't mean returning. Sometimes it just means blessing the path they chose and fully committing to the one that's calling you now. You are allowed to rest. In fact, you're being invited to step away from the noise, even if just for a few days. Turn down the volume of everyone else's opinions so you can hear the quiet hum of your own knowing. Log off if you must. Silence the unnecessary. Let your nervous system recover from the overstimulation. You are not falling behind, you are recalibrating. This is also a powerful time to pay attention to your dreams. When your conscious mind sleeps, your spirit often whispers truths too subtle for daytime noise. Keep a journal beside your bed. Write down any symbols, feelings, or names that appear. They may not make sense immediately, but patterns will form and guidance will follow. Support your body the way you support your mind. Begin your mornings gently: warm water with turmeric, honey, and lemon. Let this golden elixir remind your cells that healing doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's found in the simple act of honoring your vessel with love and consistency. Lightness returns when the body feels safe. And if there's a number that keeps showing up, maybe 444, 777, or 888, don't ignore it. Write it down. Sit with it. Let it anchor your awareness. These angel codes often arrive when you're being reassured, when the universe is saying, you are supported, even when it's quiet. These are not just coincidences, they're confirmations. You have not been given a spirit of fear. You have been given the gift of discernment, the strength of choice, and the wisdom to recognize when something sacred is unfolding. This is not a test. It's an invitation. And the only thing required of you now is honesty with yourself, with your boundaries, and with the path you are being called to walk. So if something in you knows it's time to release the energy of someone who no longer aligns, time to trust the peace that's arriving, time to say yes to a life where you no longer shrink to be loved, then step forward. The gate is open. You're ready. And so, Libra, as this message comes to a close, I want to remind you of one simple truth. You were never meant to be the gatekeeper of someone else's comfort. You were born to balance with truth, not to sacrifice your clarity in order to keep the peace for others. That isn't love, that's exhaustion. And the universe, right now, is calling you to come back home to yourself, to stand in the center of your knowing without apology, and to walk forward without looking back at what once held you small. Everything you've heard in this reading about boundaries, energy protection, financial healing, emotional freedom, it's not just spiritual theory. It's an invitation. And the real transformation happens not from listening, but from choosing. Choosing to pause before you say yes. Choosing to check in with your body after each conversation. Choosing to give yourself permission to stop proving your worth and start living in it. So let me ask you, honestly, what would happen if you finally stopped shrinking for love? What would your days feel like if you no longer had to explain why you need space? Who would you become if you truly believed you didn't have to carry what wasn't yours? You don't need to have all the answers yet. But you do need to begin asking the questions that bring you closer to your own voice. And if something within you stirred today, if a name came to mind, if a certain moment in this video made your breath catch or your chest tightened, and dismiss it. That's your soul speaking. That's your truth rising to the surface, asking to be witnessed. Take a moment now to honor that by sharing in the comments below. What angel number has been calling out to you lately? Is there someone you know you're being guided to release? What pattern, belief, or person are you finally ready to let go of? You are not alone in this. Your voice matters not just to this community, but to your own healing. And if this message resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need this reminder. Every single interaction helps anchor these messages deeper into the collective. And here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot, your presence helps us keep this sacred space alive for everyone walking a similar path of awakening. Remember, you don't need permission, you are the keeper of your own light. You don't need proof, you are the evidence that alignment exists. And you don't need to apologize, you are simply returning to who you've always been, before the world taught you to dim your brilliance. Libra, this isn't the end. It's a quiet beginning. And your soul already knows the way. All you have to do now is listen.